Hello there, welcome to another RHLSTP, this week with the absolute one-off comedy genius that is Ashley Storrie. This one is a lot of fun. I was feeling a bit depressed before I started doing this one, and I was very, very happy by the end of it. I hope, well, I'm not hoping it'll be the same for you. I'm not hoping you're depressed, but I'm hoping you'll feel happier by the end of listening to this. Hey, look, we're doing some RHLSTPs at the Clapham Grand on the 6th of February. You're not allowed to come. Don't be stupid. But we are live streaming them, and you can pay some money and help the Clapham Grand out, and help me out a little bit, I suppose, and help the podcast out by buying tickets. They're at 5 p.m. and 6:45 p.m. At 5 p.m. there is Nish Kumar, and at 6:45 p.m. the Taskmaster Champion of Champions loser Lou Sanders. So if you head to richardherring.com/gigs, you can see all details of how to buy tickets for that. You have to buy separate tickets for each show. You can see one or you can see both of them. I hope if you've enjoyed all the free content over the last year and 13 years, you might want to watch that one live. They will appear on the feeds and streams eventually anyway, so if you can't afford to pay that, you can still see them eventually. But it'll be a lot of fun seeing it live, and it'll be nice to be face-to-face with my guests rather than talking over this stupid camera. So do check that, richardherring.com/gigs, and if you go there, you can find richardherring.com/RHLSTP/tour. You can find out what future guests we've got coming up on this podcast. Anyway, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy RHLSTP with the amazing Ashley and bona fide crazy Ashley Storrie. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man who's, I'm wearing a running top. What has become of me? Lockdown has got to me. Welcome to Richard Herring's Lousy Shitty Teacher podcast. I'm here in the classroom because I'm now employed by the government to teach my own children, which, fair enough, isn't it? But that's not what I signed up for. I thought I'd look after them for 5 years and then at school and someone else would teach them. We'll talk about it more in a minute. But I was chatting to all the snowmen at the North Pole from Raymond Briggs' The Snowman. They can fly, they can ride motorcycles. Unlike the snowman I made with my daughter in the garden this week, they're not full of cat shit, as far as I'm aware. In Raymond Briggs' one, it's not very realistic, and their heads don't fall apart when you put a carrot in them either. Anyway, they call it RHLSTP. So that's what we're going to be talking about. This is homeschooling. Now I was trying to homeschool my daughter. It's very frustrating. It reminds me of when my dad tried to teach me to drive when I couldn't even drive, and we just argued, and that was it. I had to the task that I've been asked to do is just ludicrous, right? They've read a story from Aborigine culture about a frog that's full of all the water in the world and everyone has to make it laugh. And then the assignment was for her to write 5 questions she'd like to ask a magical frog from Aborigine. So I was trying to make it. I said, you can be anything. It doesn't matter. You just have to write them down. And she goes, I can't do it. I was going, you can be anything. You can't even come up with a question for a magical frog. I thought, what am I doing with my life? That's not teaching or anything, is there? There aren't magical frogs that produce all the water if you make them laugh. A snake falls over and it laughs and then it makes billabongs. It's insane. And then she's got to ask that frog questions and she didn't want to do it. 35 minutes of my day yesterday spent trying to work that out. And then everyone going, well, that's what you signed up for when you had kids. It is not what I signed up for. I'll take care of my kids. I didn't think I'd have to teach them. Furious about it. Anyway, when she was meant to be writing questions to ask a frog, I just said, what makes you laugh? What's it like being a frog? She wouldn't even take my suggestions. Instead of doing that, she drew this picture of me falling into some lava. That was what she did with her time, which is what she did last time I tried to homeschool her. Well, not in the last lockdown. Look, she drew that picture of me falling into some lava with a crocodile in it, and she just did it again, but now like in Minecraft way, digitally. This is what I have to put up with. I respect teachers very much. It's an incredibly hard job. You get, with the 5-year-old, you get like 30 minutes a day with the whole class, right? So people say, oh, you just have to supervise. No, you have to teach him. And then she sat down and did everything the teacher said, and there were 30 kids all doing everything the teacher said. And I don't know how they do it, and I don't know if it's just because she doesn't want to listen to her dad, but teaching is the hardest thing in the world. And apart from that, we did make this... We made this snowman out in the garden, which I hadn't cleared up the cat poo for a while off the lawn. We've got a very small lawn, and the cat poo's on it, and I have to go out every day and clear it up. And I hadn't done it for a while. When we started rolling the snowman, I'd noticed bits of cat poo were getting caught in it, and I wasn't that bothered. That's not cat poo on it. I rolled it out of the grass into the edge because that's going to melt. Cat poo off the lawn. I'm going to take it to Dragon's Den as a suggestion. You have to it's not really marketable because it has to snow and you can just do it yourself. But I just, I kind of hope I'm forging some memories with my kids, and all the things I remember, I remember all the snow days from when I was a kid, and so you think maybe they'll remember this day that they made a snowman and there was cat poo inside it. When I'm gone, they'll look back and remember their old dad. But when I was looking back at all the snow days that I did remember, every single one ended with me crying. I remember being pelted by snowballs from a foot away by some kids who started having a snowball fight with me in the street. Just started throwing ice in my face. I got lost in Cheddar Gorge, walking in 6-foot snowdrifts, and basically got hypothermia. Cried in the bath as I was warmed up. Just every single snow. I've got, it's wonderful. I remember that every single one ends in crying, and my daughter ended up crying because she tried to put a carrot into hers. That's my snowman. That's not her snowman. Its head fell apart. Raymond Briggs does not warn you about that. Anyway. If you are watching this live, if you're not enjoying this, you can watch me simultaneously in the Cathedral Arts Quarter Festival being interviewed about my book, The Problem with Men, which I do heartily recommend. The book, not the... I mean, the thing's good as well. I think you can watch it later on YouTube. I'm currently live on 2 internet channels. This is like being on BBC One and ITV simultaneously. How am I doing it? I'm magic. I'm like a cat poo filled snowman. I'm absolute magic. Right, my guest. I just wanted to vent about the teaching. Some guy, you chose to have the kids. When I was spunking up in my wife, I didn't think, oh, yeah, better be careful, better stop doing this in case in 6 years' time there's a pandemic and for some reason everyone has to teach their own fucking kids. I didn't see that coming, mate. And that would have put me off. It might have actually made it more exciting for me. I'd have had triplets. That's what I think. I can hear my guest laughing. That's good news. So, would you please welcome my guest? She's probably best known as the wee girl in the metal tea urn in the short film Alabama. That's why we're all here today to see her. Please welcome the wonderful Ashley Storrie, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. There she is. She's the queen of the forest.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I am enjoying your tale of cat poo snowman very much. That's the verse they left out of Frozen. Do you want to build a snowman? Roll some cat shite in a ball.
It picked up the cat poo, but the dog had just had diarrhea on top of the snow, and I tried to pick that up, and that was a mistake. That wasn't viscous enough, or it was too viscous maybe, and a little bit. It sort of smeared onto the snowman, and then I had to roll the snowman a bit more to cut. I mean, I covered up all the poo is all inside the snowman, which I think gives the snowman a taste of what it is to be like almost human, isn't it? Because they've got intestines. I mean, it's cat poo and dog diarrhea inside them, but isn't it weird? I was all tired, wasn't I? I told you this just before I was all like, oh, I don't want to do this. And look at me now. Look at me. Look how full of life I am now.
Full of vim and vigour and cat shite.
Yeah. Do you remember snow days from your childhood? And did any of them not end in you crying? I think you think it's a wonderful thing. My daughter was so excited. She said she wished it could snow every day, and I said it wouldn't be as good if it snowed every day.
I'm very young, so global warming has been in effect for most of my life.
So you haven't had snow in Glasgow?
I don't think I've ever seen a flake.
You're not from Australia. You're from Glasgow. It's cold up there all the time.
Very young Richard, so a baby.
No. Oh, it's always tears. You think it's great, and then snow is just disappointing, and it very quickly turns from something magical into something horrible and hard and wet.
I've just
cold.
never been enamored by weather. Like,
No.
there's always people who are like, "Oh, it's weather," and I'm just like, "It's weather." I don't know why you're all getting all your knickers in a bunch.
Yeah, fair enough.
Snow, rain, winds. It's just God being angry. So I'll stay in the house. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. So look, for people who can't see you, if they listen to the podcast, you are wearing an absolutely fantastic headdress.
Thank you.
Is that what you'd call it? I don't. It's more than just something to keep your hair up.
It's a headband.
It's more than that.
It's a decorated headband. Do
got-
you know what it is? You've been on Twitch, Richard. You've
Yes,
been on Twitch.
I have.
A lot of female gamers have cat ears, and it's a sexy thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, what can I do that makes my head interesting, but doesn't make me like a sexy person?
No, it does make you like a sexy person. Because...
You're a liar, and if you're saying that, then you've got something wrong with you. I'm trying to conjure up like Wickerman feelings.
So there's some deer. Is it like meant to be a deer? There's some deer ears and
It's
some horns.
deery. It's a deer antler. Originally, it was headphones with antlers that I glued on myself, but then they fell off.
Okay.
So then I just bought antlers. But then I've got a couple of pairs that get bigger and bigger. I've got quite a lot of antlers.
Okay, that's good. And is the fruit on there edible? That'd be quite nice if you're doing Twitch. You can just pick a berry off there and eat that, or are they just decorative?
No, they're just decorative,
Okay.
Richard. It's not a fruit on my head. I'm not Maria Prakatan. I've not got an edible fruit bowl on my head.
Well, look, I'm gonna get some of those because I'm just here with headphones and my sagging, greying head. So I have to do better. You've made me feel I have to do better. Well, tell us about you. Were you 3 years old in your first appearance? You're the wee girl in the tea urn. The wee girl in the metal tea urn in the short film Alabama. Do you remember anything about it, or is it just made up as a joke?
I don't know if my mum made that up to bulk my CV out. I've got no clue.
It's on your website.
Yeah, I know, but like, I think that got made by John Fleming like 7 years ago. I don't remember. I did a lot of acting as a child. I was very cute and I was very easily directed, and I would do whatever adults told me to. So I would just get shipped in to do. There's like weird adverts of me driving a tiny police car with a full-size policeman beside me, and it's like, sign up to Scottish Police. I have got no idea why I was doing that, but I did.
You were in a Ken Loach advert, according to your website, for fairy powder.
I was, and he did a documentary about his life, and he described that period of time as his darkest period. So I was there. I saw Ken Loach, who did like Kathy Come Home, one of the saddest films ever. When he had to do commercials, that was the darkest period of his career, and I witnessed it as a child.
Did he make the commercials as dark and as gritty as his films, or did he bite the bullet?
I only remember very few things about him, but one of the things I remember is he would tell me to do something, and then he'd hide behind the couch.
Right.
To like see what I would do, and then essentially I had Ribena on my t-shirt and I had to come downstairs, and he was like, just do what you want, just come downstairs and just tell us what you feel. And I came downstairs and I went, I've been shot, and that tickled him, and that's how I got the part.
Brilliant. Well, you have got a very unique a very unique way of performing, I think, and a uniquely what's the word? What's the polite way of saying it, Ashley? I'm trying to be polite by saying it's an interesting. No one else could do what you do, I think, is probably what I'm trying to say.
I'm a big weirdo, and that's all right.
You are a big weirdo, but I like that, and there's a lot of comedians who are big weirdos, so you're in the correct job. But I think what I like, I think, is many things, but I think it's sort of, there's an honesty you've never really, and I've known you for a long time because you used to do stand up also when you were a child. So I met you, which you won't remember, I don't think, in somewhere like the one of the Edinburgh venues. I can't remember what it was called now, but and I performed there. The Underbelly, one of those guys, the Underbelly, and you were doing stand up at like 11 or 12 years old, were you, right? When
I met you at the Underbelly, I was 24. Not doing stand up. I was an underage teenager who was convincing barmen to give me drinks. It was a great time.
Well, you were still young then, but so you did stand up first, and then you stopped doing stand up fairly quickly, but then you came back to it a lot later. But I think it's just there's in the stuff you're doing online. We'll talk about that as well a bit in a minute. But the stuff you're doing online, I think you're just you're not. There's no pretense. We're getting the real Ashley Storrie, I think, is.
Yep, well, it's autism. It's pretty much what that is. I got diagnosed, and when they gave me like a book explaining why I was autistic, which they needn't have really done, but they gave me like a whole thing, and they were like, "Oh, it's really good you've like picked a job where you could just be you."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much true."
But it's a lot of comedians will try and fit in, or try and be cool, or try and hide away. Try and either exaggerate or hide away what they're doing. I just sort of it feels very honest. I took a test for autism, and I'm not autistic. It's like a lot of people. Well, the test tells me I'm not autistic. I thought I might be, because I'm kind of a bit awkward socially, and I get very obsessed about doing certain projects and things, and I do them quite obsessively. But I don't. Apparently, I'm nowhere near being.
Did you do a test on the internet or with a medical professional?
I did a test on the internet, but it looked quite a good one.
Was it on BuzzFeed?
No.
Okay.
It was something. I was sort of at the high end of completely normal. There was I think I got 12 out of 50 or something. It was some way away from being autistic, which I think a lot of people. It's one of those things that lots of people goes, "Oh, I'm a bit autistic," and they're not, right?
No, it's like people who say that, like people who are clean who say they've got OCD, and I'm like, no, I've got friends with OCD who can't leave the house until they've like checked that the light switch is turned off a specific way, or they've locked the door a funny way, or we just can't leave. That's the end of that. That's not you keeping your fucking curtains at a certain cleanly level.
Yes, and I think
am I allowed to say fucking? Sorry.
Yeah, you're allowed to say anything you want.
Okay, thank you.
Don't be racist if you can help it. If you want to start being racist.
Well, I'll hold it in, Richard. Okay, I'll hold in my racism for now.
Thank you.
Fuck the English. Anyhow, sorry,
right.
it spelled out. I apologise, all English people.
It's acceptable, isn't it, to be racist to the English? Yeah, and I will be racist to the Scottish in return. It's a dance as old as time. Yeah, but there's those sort of things where I feel like have I locked the door? I have to go back and check 3 times sometimes, but that's still nowhere near, right? That's still nowhere near.
You done the test for ADHD?
I think I did. I don't. I think I'm fair. I'd love to have an excuse for the way I behave, but I don't actually have any excuse. I'm just a bit weird. And get a bit obsessed about things that I don't need to be obsessed about. But I guess I'm always doing it at a slight. I'm winking at it when I'm getting obsessed with things, while still slightly being obsessed with them. So it's it's within my control. I think I can stop most of the time if I want to. So I think that takes it away.
I just don't know why you're winking.
Yeah, I'm winking at it.
You're obsessed with something and you're winking at it. You're like the weirdest stalker in the world, just walking behind a woman and winking at her. I'm obsessed, but I'm winking. It's fine.
Yes, I'm winking at it. So how you found out quite recently, though, or certainly as an adult, so you didn't know as a child that. Mm-mm. I mean, you had an unusual child. You've been on the podcast before with your mum, Janie Godley, and been annoyed that I have never had you on your own. And look, now here you are.
I know all it took was a pandemic.
Let's bring Janie in though. So your mum, your mum is quite a character as well, and your dad is also. Well, you've written about your dad, and you've done a radio show about your dad's autism as well, and he's. And so you've had quite an unusual upbringing of freedom and your parents. I think in the last podcast we talked about how your mum pretended you were diabetic so you wouldn't get to eat sweets as a child, even though you weren't.
Yep.
And that's quite unusual, right? I told you, I don't know if this is in the podcast or whether I read this today, that that Ice Cream Men only played their music when they were sad, so they wouldn't be selling any ice cream. So your mum was, and you come from a working class family that had some criminal connections.
Yes.
I think so you've had quite an unusual upbringing. So is that why you didn't know there was anything wrong, or was it just something that people weren't interested or didn't diagnose back 30 years ago?
There was things that I had kind of self-diagnosed. I had always kind of self-diagnosed and said, well, Dad has it. There's a big genetic link. Because I diagnosed Dad when we were at school, we got taught about the Baron-Cohen test,
right? Which
is the original test for Asperger's that was invented by Sacha Baron Cohen's brother, which is mad. That Borat's brother invented the test for autism.
Is it definitely not some kind of? Is it definitely real and not some kind of spoof thing?
I don't know. Wouldn't that be a fun twist if autism didn't exist and it was all just a Borat joke? But yeah, I read about that test and there was something weird in the test about not being able to use the phone. And my dad can't use the phone. He'll make me hold the phone and talk to people, and he'll frantically mouth what he wants me to say on his behalf over the phone. And I always thought that was really normal. And and also I had to answer the phone a specific way. So as a small child, I would pick up the phone and go, hello, this is Jenny Godley's house. How may I help you? And I thought that was normal. So when I was at other people's houses, my friends' houses, my friend Victoria's house, the phone would go and our mum, Rosie, would be like, oh, answer the phone for me. And I'd be like, hello, this is the Barnett residence. How may I help you? And thought that was normal. And people thought it was super weird. And I was like, okay, that's a weird thing. So I put it on my list. And then when I saw this test, I was like, oh, that's Dad, that's Dad, that's Dad. And then I said to him, you might not be just an angry psycho. You might have a thing. And he was delighted because he spent his entire life thinking he's got something wrong with his brain and not understanding it and being like, oh, I'm just a bad man who doesn't like velvet. And then he got to go to the doctors. The doctor was like, that's what it is. It was honestly like I'd discovered something magical. And all these adult people round about me went, oh, that's what it that explains everything. And then they tested him, and within like a second of the man testing him, and I remember the man who tested him wore a tie that didn't have a point. It was like a karate belt. It was like a square tie.
Okay.
And Dad could barely hold himself together just from that. And he was like, you're going to have to take off that tie, mate, because that's not making sense. And the guy was like, okay, so you're autistic, because that's not a normal reaction to my stylish modern tie.
And so how is it sort of both for yourself and for your dad as well? Because you're using your dad in your comedy, and as does your mum as well. But so you're sort of fighting over who gets to talk about his stuff. But is that a difficult thing to talk about? Certainly, like if it's yourself, it's a bit different, isn't it? But if you're talking about your dad, do you have any worries about joking about it, or is it all? He doesn't come and see gigs, right? So does he ever listen to any of the radio shows that So he doesn't know what you've done, really.
He does. I'll tell him and I'll speak to him about stuff, but he doesn't care. He doesn't. People think that we make that up, that he doesn't care, but he genuinely cares more that I don't leave the light on in the toilet than go on stage and call him anything. Like, he wouldn't care. But if I don't turn the washing machine off when I'm done with it, even though it's got a self-turn off function, and it will turn off eventually, that'll do his tits in for like a month. But if I went on stage and was like, my dad's an annoying, smelly plum, he'd be like, no, that's fair. And
well,
doesn't...
yeah, it's you know, I'm interested in the, you know, in the link between, or sort of the way that comedy often skirts and plays around with mental illness, and you know, it's a way of, I guess, cope, as long as it's not, you know, taking the piss. It's a sort of way of coping with the sort of fragility and peccadillos of our minds, you know, to be able to joke about it, but also, you know, these things. It's a weird thing with autism, because what happens is sort of inherently funny because it's what you're not meant to do. So it's sort of like a joke anyway, right? Isn't it? Because that's how jokes work, or that's how comedy works. It's someone behaving in a way that they're not meant to behave in society, and from thence the humour arises, and that's daily life for someone with autism.
But sometimes I think the humour is more his actions, which is like, oh, how society shouldn't act, kind of makes me reflect upon society. And I'm like, sure, maybe yous are the arseholes and we are right.
Yeah.
Like, kind of convinced that we're all right on this front, especially with like interpersonal relationships. I don't do the new relationshipy hiding your crazy thing until you get a mortgage and then displaying it once it's too late and you can't back out the deal. I think that's mad, and I've got friends who do that, and I'm like, just tell them that you're a weirdo and stop with this I don't poop nonsense.
Well, I think that, you know, the world, as we're increasingly seeing, the world is insane, and society and civilization are an artifice that we've placed on human life in order to improve certain, you know, it's a good idea in a lot of ways to have organized stuff and have religion, even because it helps us survive, which is good for the survival of our genes, and civilization helps us not just kill each other automatically, but also it's not like natural, you know, in terms of it's not how we're meant to be in nature,
I guess. So
therefore, well, just that, you know, that it's an artifice, that civilization and everything we do is an artifice. So that, I think that's part of comedy's job, is to go, you know, isn't it weird that, you know, that there's someone who's a queen and she's just that because she plopped out the right vagina, and you're just all accepting that. Why is that a thing? You know, or whatever, or smaller things than that as well. So, you know, I think I suppose that's what interests me about like exploring my own, you know, slight madness and my own slight obsessions, is that when I clear stones off a field and commentate on it, I'm thinking this is no more ridiculous than the jobs of the people who are listening to this, but because they get paid for doing that, because they go into a place and, you know, they're wasting their life putting figures into a computer, and I'm wasting my life putting stones at the edge of a field. So, you know, who is the madman? Ashley, who is it? It's me. It is me in that case.
I think it's really is still, because I don't really understand. Are you saying that comedy's like moving stones? I'm so confused.
I think.
Are you building a wall, Richard? What the fuck are you doing?
I'm building a wall that's going to be visible from space. I'm saying that life is a joke. Life is ridiculous, and our lives, we're here in a sort of cosmic accident, and there's no, you know, we're trying to place meaning into stuff that has no meaning, I think, you know, and we're trying to say, oh, if this happens, then this happens. So all the way we, you know, I think we got quite good as a species in terms of actually finding out why some stuff's happened, but along the way there's been a lot of fucking mad shit going on in order to get to that point. So, you know, people say, oh, this happens because the sun won't come up unless I kill someone on a mountain at night time. And look, it's come up again, so that proves it. So, you know, there's lots of mad things that have happened that on the way to us being, like, slightly enlightened, but you can't really say that when you look at the way the world's working at the moment, that we're an enlightened species.
On that subject, Richard, are you excited for Disclosure?
I don't know what Disclosure is.
They're going to tell us about the aliens so soon.
Are they?
Yeah, it's literally round the corner.
Okay.
We're going to find out that the Greys, the reptilians, it's all happening.
Well, it sounds like you've already been told, if you know it's coming.
Well, I've been told because I know the right websites, Richard. But the government are going to tell us, specifically the Americans.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
I just have they been sitting on it for so long without anyone knowing about it?
Bluetooth. That's how we got Bluetooth.
Well, look, I think there's a possibility. There's been a lot of advances in technology very quickly since the Roswell alien crashed into Area 51.
Mm-hmm. And Eisenhower made the deal with the small greys to sell human flesh for Wi-Fi.
Okay. Okay, we're getting into that territory. It's very early. I'm very happy to talk about it. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm sort of self-mockingly saying, I think there's just a good chance there's nothing else out there in terms of intelligent life. I think we're such an accident that even if the universe is infinite, we might be the only one that has got to this point.
I kind of really hope that there's like bigger knobs than us out there.
Yeah, well,
I'm not looking for intelligent life that's going to teach us anything. I'm looking for like a race of like, excuse me, but did you know that actually stars are this? I want that. Okay. I want like aliens with podcasts to turn up and fedoras.
If there are aliens, they will have podcasts. I just think for them to get here, they've got to be quite clever, or just have fallen onto an asteroid somehow.
Or lucky.
Well, they'd have had to try, unless they're living on Venus or Mars. They've got a long way to travel, and they'd have to be quite clever to work out how to go that fast, that easily, or find wormholes. So it's possible. I don't think. Have you ever seen a UFO yourself?
Actually? No, I've seen time travel, but not a UFO.
You've seen time travel. Now tell me about that.
Well,
have you seen time travel?
I have 100% seen time travel. You can take that dubious geography teacher tone out of your voice.
I want to know how you've seen it. Have you experienced it, or have you just seen someone appear and disappear, and they went, "I'm from 1872." Oh, is that what happened?
No. Okay. So, like, maybe 8 years ago,
yeah.
Me and my friends were sitting in my room. Were we partaking in substance abuse? Not really. And I was explaining time travel to my two friends who aren't bright. And I said to them, let's all write in our iPhones this date, this time, and in the future, if time travel's possible, let's come back to this exact moment in time and alert ourselves to it. So we did that. We count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nothing happens. 3 seconds later, this is 4 a.m. A firework goes off outside my flat window. I look out my window and there is a fat old lady running down the street who looked like me.
Well, that's good. So that's good to know that you are indestructible now until that moment happens in reality. Yep. So you can do anything. You can walk into fires and you'll probably be okay. You might, if you couldn't say, she might have been hideously burnt. My friend Andrew Mackay did the same thing as that, and except we were writing it in diaries back then. But he forgot to transcribe it 1 year. He didn't turn up. So when at the appointed time, but then he forgot 1 year to transcribe it to his new diary, so he forgot what day it was meant to be.
Well, that's why he didn't turn up.
So that might be why he didn't turn up. But
also,
he didn't. So he didn't turn up, so he didn't bother to transcribe it though. So it's both ways.
Last year, I saw a person out my window at the same bit of land who fully walked backwards for like 7 minutes. And one time I looked out the window and everybody was just standing still. And then, like, as if they knew I was looking, they all started moving again. Okay. And Mum has witnessed this too.
That is possible.
One time,
you could
I'm
be
not
in
finished.
The Truman Show. You could be in the Scottish Truman Show.
I don't think so. I just think there's a wormhole across the road from my house near where the Chinese herbal medicine shop is. And this other time, there was a man fully in old-fashioned clothes, and he walked out and he went, "I've been shot in the arse and I don't know where I am." Right. Gun crime isn't a thing in Scotland. And he looked like he was like from Bridgerton.
Well, I wonder whether when you set up the thing about the coming back to that time, and then you came back to that time with your firework from the future.
I've read something.
Was it a futuristic firework that you set into motion? Something like rift in the fabric of time that has created all these other things happening, and then a guy has come from. It's like the guy from Rent-A-Ghost was a Victorian guy, wasn't he? That's used too. That's the reference is lost on you because you're too young.
I've pulled a thread, Richard, on the fabric of time,
Yeah.
and something's afoot, and I'm excited by it.
That's
so,
good.
to answer your question, how have you seen time travel? That's
Okay,
how.
no, I'm on board with that. That's pretty good. So the aliens are coming. It's good to know time travel is possible. I think, I think I'm just going to be too late for all of these things. Within 20 years, people will be immortal, basically. I don't think...
I did look very old, and I'm a slow ager,
right.
So I was probably like 100.
Yeah, I think that could be true, and I think people will get older and older and will live for longer and longer, but I'm just of the generation that I'm just going to peter out just before that happens. Yeah, sad. But in a way, I'm ready to go. I've had a good life, Ashley. I'm ready to go.
I want to be like Robin Williams in that Bicentennial Man film where he's got all the knobs and twiddles and he lists forever.
Now I've found out that homeschooling is going on until March the 8th. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. If I would just go, look, I'm sorry, kids. I'm sorry to leave you, but it's fine. Your mum's attractive. You'll have a new dad soon.
That's true.
And I don't want to do this anymore.
Do you want me to teach them science?
Yes, I would love that. Yeah, if you could. Perhaps you and my daughter will together create time travel. Maybe that's how it's going to happen. Maybe. Thanks to me passing away. You never know. Good. Well, look, most of my emergency questions have basically been answered now by within seconds. I did ask you some out of the old book. I'll ask you some out of the new book. We'll get on to some other stuff as well. You're very, very good value, Ashley Storrie. I'm going to tell you that.
Thank you.
This is an interesting question. I don't think I've asked anyone before. Can people change, Ashley? Do you think people can change? There's a bit in what song is it? There's some. I think in Frozen actually there's a bit where people don't really. There's one of the messages of that song is that people don't really change. So there's something that people don't really change. I think people do change. Do you think people change?
I think people can change. The Rock was a villain at the beginning of wrestling, and now he's everybody's favourite wrestler.
Okay, there you go.
And I think people can change. Do they change on the inside? No, but I think we're all very good at pretending to be better than we are.
I don't know. I think we do. I think you can change on the inside. I think like people are dishonest, obviously, about what goes on inside their heads. Apart from you, Ashley, you're very honest about what goes inside your head. But and also cheat them, lie to themselves, and everyone thinks they're the good one in the story, don't they? I mean, that's the thing. I think everyone, unless you're really going full pelt to be evil, I think everyone thinks, I'm good. Oh yeah, I did that thing. But here's the extenuating circumstances of why I was mean to that person. But I think I've changed. I think in the last 20 years, I think I'm a very different person than I was. I think I think that it seems to me like it's an excuse to excuse sort of bad behaviour. You can go, the thing is, people don't change. That guy's going to be a dick for the rest of his life. That guy, he'll never settle down because he's that kind of guy, But I think if you compare me now to me of 20 years ago, I'm a very.
Do you wear less suede?
Person. I wear less suede. I did have a sort of leathery jacket. Yeah,
that's my only memory of you is that you wore like a beigey jacket, and I didn't like it.
I like that jacket. I actually had 4 copies of that jacket. I got through. I never look after anything properly. It wasn't that expensive, but it was quite expensive. But I then saw them on sale, like for about a quarter price, and I bought all of the ones that fitted me. So I did wear that jacket for a long time because I had several copies of them. But now I don't. I did buy a leather jacket a couple of years ago, and it doesn't suit a 52-3-year-old man really.
I think maybe there's people who can change and people who can't.
Okay, so I've changed because I don't wear leather clothes.
And you're a changer.
I do change.
Maybe there's twisters and stickers, and there's people who stick and there's people who twist.
I think life is you've got to keep learning in life, and if you're not changing, then you're not doing life right, because there's lessons all the way through life about you've got to go. Oh, why most of the things that happen just that are bad are our own fault, Ashley, and if you're not learning from your mistakes, then there's something very, very bad going on. You allow the first 40 years to not learn from your mistakes, but after the first 40, if you're not learning from your mistakes, then good luck to you. We're getting very philosophical.
I like it.
I thought I was going to talk to you about Twitch and stuff, but no. Let's see what else. Would you rather be a Grinch or a Shrek? If you could choose between those two things. Are you aware of both these monster green-based?
I am. I think I'd rather be a Grinch because I would want to hang about with the little Who people, and I'd have the little dog, and his cave is cool. And I don't like Shrek because he's always trying to get his hole and going about it the wrong way.
Okay, but he's so
I gave
Scottish,
up into two.
Shrek's so Scottish. He's so brilliant. That accent is that is the best. That's what I'm aiming for when I do my Scottish impression. I'm trying to get to. I've never really got a handle on the Grinch. Does he? My kids were watching at Christmas, but I was bored by it. Does he get better? Does he change? Does the Grinch change? Does he get?
His heart grows and grows, and he's filled with the spirit of Christmas because the little kid with the turned up nose is like, "Oh, don't ruin Christmas!" And then she sings that wee song, and then all the Who's and Whoville sing, and his heart gets big, and he's filled with joy. And then I think he gets a girlfriend at the end of it.
It's just Ebenezer Scrooge in green, right? It's just a green Ebenezer Scrooge. That's what they've done there.
Without ghosts.
Okay.
And also he doesn't hurt any disabled employees.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, actually, Tiny Tim was not employed by Scrooge.
You don't know what was going on with his dad. He had problems. He had a bad back. Sore legs.
Good. So if the Grinch can change, then anyone can change. So I think you've just answered the previous question there, and your love of the Grinch.
I think you're right. You're absolutely right.
Shrek can't change. Shrek doesn't change, and he does change a bit.
Well, Shrek's a sticker. The Grinch is a twister.
Okay, I'll ask you this. One more emergency question, then I'm going to go back to my notebook. This has happened to me. Have you ever taken part in an identity parade, either trying to pick out the criminal, being one of the people who isn't a criminal, or being the alleged criminal?
No, but there was a man who was masturbating in a Starbucks when I was a teenager, and it's when I realised that I struggled to describe people without being, I don't know, I just couldn't get, when they showed me what my description was, it looked like something from the Grinch. And I was like, maybe I'm not good at describing things in a non-comedic fashion.
Maybe just all men look like the Grinch when they're masturbating. I don't know. I haven't. Maybe they
maybe
just as they're hunched over,
maybe
going to town on themselves.
I'm not good at it. It's a difficult thing when somebody's like, "Oh, and what was the length of his nose?" And I was like, "I don't know, but it was nasty."
Well,
he had a cruel nose.
My mental illness is I have aphantasia, which means I can't. I haven't mentioned this for weeks. And people will be delighted it's back. I can't bring up images in my brain, right? So I can't see. If I'm imagining something, I'm not seeing anything. Mm-hmm. I get very brief flashes. So if I'm thinking of your face, I will I'll know what your face looks like, but I won't be able to see it. If you see what I mean, it'll just sort of flash. Something will flash almost behind my brain's eyes. So I think I would struggle to do any of those things where you have to say what someone looked like and get them to be drawn, because I wouldn't. It would be very difficult to really pull that up.
It was less that I couldn't see him, and more that his head in my mind was like, I don't know, trippy. I just see things. I think I see the world different than everybody sees it. Because if somebody said, "Oh, describe Richard Herring," I would be like, like soft and like a badger, but like a friendly badger with pinkness. Yeah, and then they'd draw you, and I'd be like, "No, that's not what I meant," but you know what I mean. And that's my, again, assumed knowledge as a sign of autism. Okay. Is assuming everybody understands completely what you're talking about.
Well, who knows what other people see? That's the perception is at the heart of everything, isn't it? I mean, we're getting very much into stoned students at first week of university territory now. But why not? We've started. Let's go. We've started, so we'll finish. What if the colour you see is blue, I see is green? Doesn't really matter, does it? Because we just still would call it the same thing. So let's talk about something else for a second before we get back into our crazy lives. This is very good, Ashley. This is an extremely enjoyable podcast,
I'm glad.
As I knew it would be. Well, I'm sort of, both you and your mum this last couple of years seem to really have broken through into public consciousness more than you had before, but having both worked for a good length of time without getting, I think, the attention you both deserved. So your mum certainly has been going for as stand-up for, what, 30 years, 20, 30 years or something like that, 20 years? I don't know how long it is.
Long time.
A big, long time. And what do you think the reason is that, say, like TV and radio have been reluctant to, there's lots of possible reasons, and maybe it's all of them. But
I think that there's lots of different things. People always go to the swearing as the first one, but I know so many male comedians who swear and are vile on stage, but get booked on radio and television, and it's never ever questioned that they'll be able to control themselves when a camera's on them and not do their big weird pussy joke. Like it's never brought into account that might be a thing, but for some reason, and I don't know if it's the Scottishness and I don't know if it's the women thing, but there will be times where I'll go on stage and somebody will go, just so you know, you can't swear, and I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. It's like a dementia charity. I'm not going to go out and do my C-bomb material. Calm down, Karen. But there is like a weird because before when I started comedy, the thing I was doing kid shows more than I was doing adult shows. I was doing Frozen like for 2 years on tour, and I managed to do 2 years every day in Frozen without one swearing in front of a child.
Who were you playing in Frozen?
Okay, so you know the guy who runs the shop?
Yeah.
I was his sister.
Okay.
It was a character I created of my own because I had to host Sing Along of Frozen. I was also Olaf.
Good.
So I would run off stage, put on my Olaf costume, do my bees will buzz, kids will go and the lion buzz, do my little dance. And me and the two princesses would do these giant sing-along shows across Britain.
That sounds fantastic. I would, if you bring it back. My kids are obsessed with. My son was dressed as Elsa today, for all day. It was very good. He's 28 years old as well, so it's no, he's 3. It's fine. So yes, I'm very well aware of the Frozen oeuvre. And yeah, I think you'd be a good Olaf, and I think that's nice. Anyway, yes. So I mean, I don't know. It seems to me like. But your family's a working class family and and it's from Scotland, and whether that's a positive or a negative to people in London, I don't know. I mean, I
think it's a negative. It is a negative, and I know that there are people who will heartily disagree with me and say Scotland is loved south of the border, but I have been enough times. I've been in enough comedy clubs and rooms where some London persons come up to me and mean, oh, you're from Glasgow, that must be like so scary. You come from Scotland, oh my god, how have you not been stabbed? And I'm like, I've been to Newcastle, I've seen the other parts of England, you don't get to throw shite at us anymore. I've seen your cities and they're just as fucking dodgy as ours. Shush now. Shush. The only place I've ever been mugged was in London in my entire life. The only place where I've ever been robbed was in London. But there's a weird, and I think it's the bill, Richard. I think that the bill, whenever they had a Scottish person on it, it was always a drug dealer or a gangster. And I think everybody in the 80s, 90s and early 2000s had their brain warped by Sunhill.
Right, it could be that. I don't know. I mean, I would think, you would think that TV commissioners were going, well, it'd be good to get more women, it'd be good to get more working class people on TV, it would be good to have some different accents. But I wonder, like, I don't want to place devil's advocate particularly, but I someone like Limmy as well, who I think is like just absolutely one of the greatest comedy minds of our generation, and just such a fascinating person. But again, I think like with him, I think people felt, well, will people in England get that? Which they absolutely fucking would, so fuck off. But is it that Glasgow maybe particularly is I think it feels to me like a city and there aren't many left in the United Kingdom that has its own personality, and I wonder whether it feels to an outsider that they're not in on the joke, that maybe you have to get in on the joke to get the stuff that's going on. You have to kind of become familiar with it, and maybe it's putting people off in that way, because it's not like, what Limmy's doing, what you and your mum have been doing are sort of not like anybody else, right? So
I get what you're saying, but you look at things like Shameless and the success Shameless had, and that was very much Manchester.
Yeah.
It was very much that embodied within that programme. Or you look at Derry Girls and the success Derry Girls has had. That's a really specific place and a really specific viewpoint. But we can all kind of see... do you know what is a great example? Korean, K-pop and K-dramas. That's a super weird viewpoint. The West eats it up. Little teenage girls, me, I have watched like 4 different Korean dramas. They make no sense. I watched 29 episodes of a TV show about a nun who went undercover in a boy band. And I loved it because her twin brother went for eye surgery and couldn't blink anymore. So she had to replace him in the boy band. And it was amazing. And I didn't need to get Korean jokes or understand South Korean life to be like, I like this, because you like what you like and you find your way through it. And it's the reason why Game of Thrones works. None of us is like, I totally relate to this because I remember when I burned my husband and my 3 dragons came alive.
I know. I wasn't. I was doing my best to try and think of it from their point of view, and you are right. But maybe the good thing is, maybe it's good. And I'm really, really delighted to see you both kind of getting recognition and awards and radio shows and TV shows, and your mum's doing lots of acting now, and it's really terrific. I'm glad you've got recognition, but maybe those years of just doing your own thing, and for Limmy as well, maybe for myself as well, by being left alone, what you end up creating is much more interesting than what you might have done had you been pulled out of obscurity as an 11-year-old stand-up. If someone said, come on, let's do a TV show, you wouldn't be the Ashley Storrie that you are now, and you wouldn't be doing the stuff that you're doing now.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree. And weirdly, that ties back to my autism diagnosis. Is the lady who diagnosed me said if you'd been diagnosed as a kid, you wouldn't be the person you are today, because all of your weirdness and all of the things that make you a good comedian are things you've put in place to deal with your autism. And if you had been diagnosed as a child, you wouldn't have developed like, oh, I'm going to talk in a funny voice for 3 hours because it's going to protect me from how uncomfortable I feel in this situation, and that becoming a character, or, oh, I'm going to put on a funny hat and pretend to be somebody else for a little while. But it's like, I'm happy with how everything, there's not an ounce of me that's like, oh, we should have got this sooner. There are very talented people who I'm sad haven't been recognised at all. And I think that sucks. And I think that there is a definite issue with Scottish voices getting heard. But I think that me and Mum were always prepared, even within Scotland, to be told to piss off. So we were always online. Always. Like, we were making YouTube videos when YouTube first became a thing. And we were making podcasts before people made podcasts. And it was just a genuine reaction to even... I remember going to BBC Scotland when it was the old building with my mum when I was a kid. And a big presenter going... I could see her mouth moving, and she went, what is she doing here? And looked at my mum. And I was like, oh, we're not welcome here. We're not a welcome... And it was just, okay, that's accepted. Let's go do our own thing. And so we did our own thing. So there was never an expectation or an entitlement, because it was always like, it's fine. And we found our own people. And that's the great thing about Twitch or podcasts or what you do. You find your own people. And it feels so much better than being forced or foisted upon people.
Sure. No, and all those years of doing the online stuff that you've done, obviously in the last couple of years has borne big fruit, and meant you can, you've got that audience there and you're ready to go. Whereas a lot of comedians are sort of suddenly scrabbling around trying to do stuff online. don't have that backing. And I think it is, it's sort of fascinating watch. What I like about your YouTube videos, that, and I have, you've done a lot, so I haven't seen all of them, but it's more about the idea than the production values. The Handmaid's Tale one, which is just awesome, is just you holding a big piece of card or something over your head, but and seemingly just improvising around maybe a couple of ideas you've had, but your mum's filming some of them, and you're laughing at the end, and they're very homemade, but really great content. And so it's really great to see stuff like that develop, and a lot of that. The Harry Potter, the Scottish Harry Potter one, has been seen like tens of millions of times around the world.
Yeah, right? I think it's like something stupid, like 40-50 million.
Right. Which is insane. So I just read about that, and so this is you just Harry Potter as a Scottish female wizard, and it's very. I won't try and describe it. Just watch these things; they're worth watching. But you put that out yourself, and then it was bought by a lad. Was it Lad Bible or something? Was the website that bought it?
It was Lad Bible bought it, and I was filming with Josie Long the day they bought it, and one of the guys who was in Harry Potter was in the production that we were doing, and I was like really excited to meet him, and it had just gone viral that day. It was Sean Biggerstaff, and I was like, oh, and he was just no interest, didn't care, and I was like, oh, okay, but it was the first time anybody who I didn't know had recognised me, and it was like somebody in the production was like, oh my god, you're that girl on that Harry Potter video, and I was like, yes I am, thank you so much. And I'm stood beside a person from Harry Potter who they didn't recognise, and that was the gold, that was the juice right there, was somebody being like, oh, you're the Harry Potter girl, and I'm like, yeah. But all it is I think, again, it's 100% of me being like, there's never anybody like me in these things. Yeah. There's never just like a normal Scottish person in these fantastical situations. And I just think, how funny would it be if, like, in The Handmaid's Tale, if there was just like a Scottish woman who was like raging that she'd been caught up in all this shite.
It's great. Well, also it's a lovely reference thing to go to. I suppose there's a TV show, but it's a highbrow reference, but then also just really silly and fun, and and just down to earth. Someone going, yeah, this is all right. I don't really like this bit of it, but I prefer this. It's lovely stuff. So when someone's bought it from you, but if it got viewed 40 million times, then presumably did they make the revenue off of that, or did they give you 100 quid for it and then it's been viewed 40 million times, or did they give you a good amount of money to make it worthwhile, or do you think it's worth it in terms of the exposure that it's led on to, I suppose?
It was worth it in terms of it got me contracts to do short form,
right?
Where I got paid in advance by like the BBC or Channel 4, and that was really good because it meant that I could say, like, I could have ideas and people like them, so here is my proof, there are my numbers, and that's where it was a good thing. But it was at the time where Lad Bible had just started paying people and stopped stealing content, so it felt like a really big achievement because usually they just stole your video.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. Even now, it's still pretty good for someone to pay you for something. And I guess it gave a platform to grow as well. So it's interesting because I think a lot of, again, when I started doing podcasts, lots of comedians go, why would you do stuff for no money, and why, and I just wanted to do it to get the ideas out there, but actually you're building something as you do that, and every, it obviously has paid off. I noticed you haven't got a Wikipedia page, Ashley, which is about the third guest in about 4 or 5 weeks who's not got a Wikipedia page, and how is that possible, and why have you not got a Wikipedia page?
I took it down.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Because I have mischievous friends who were putting shit in it that did not belong on the internet. No, I don't know. I just I like the fact that there are websites, like those find out a celebrity's net worth websites.
Yes. Okay,
so I've found like 3 with mum in it,
right,
and one has a picture of a man who is definitely not my dad, who's about 27, and says he works at Carphone Warehouse and that me and Mum do a double act that are magicians. And that she's 5'2", and that no, she's 4'8". One of them said she was 4'8", that we were magicians, and that my dad was a 27-year-old who worked at Carphone Warehouse as a manager.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that still exists, that there are weird parts of the internet where somebody just made shit up, and Wikipedia would ruin that.
Okay, well, I won't get. I can send my minions out to create you. I've done it before. I can do it again. If you want one, I can make it happen.
I'll hold off.
Okay.
I've got a project coming out later in the year. I'll maybe wait till then and see if that goes well.
Okay. Because, it makes it hard to research people if they don't have Wikipedia pages, because that's usually all I do, is just look at Wikipedia.
What do I know? I'm on Wikipedia. Just ask me and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. No, sometimes it just, I don't know if I particularly want to know anything. I just, sometimes it, actually, I'll tell you what I want to know more about is, I want to know more about you working as a karaoke host, a bingo caller, and I want to know more about you working at a law firm and making a pyramid out of soft drinks.
That's
tell me all about those. I
was a temp who got sent to lots of different places, and one of the places I got sent to was a law firm where Susan Calman was a lawyer at the time.
Oh, wow.
And my job was to answer the phone and set up the room for meetings, and also they had a lot of after work activities. It was a whole hoo-ha, and I would have to serve the sandwiches and I get bored, and then I start to pretend I'm in a sitcom in my head. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I built a huge pyramid out of cans in the boardroom? Because it was literally a setup. The Japanese were coming, Richard. That's every sitcom from the 50s and 60s. I Love Lucy. The Japanese are coming. Oh, get it ready. So I set up a giant pyramid of cans of drinks, but the only way they could get a can of drink was to climb on the table and take one from the top or face doom. And then I left, and they sacked me that day, and I was like, well, that's fine, because I'm not taking down your pyramid of drinks. So I'd love to have seen that meeting in that law office where they had just asked me to leave and I had skipped on my merry way. And did they decide to go to a different room, or did they try and take down the can?
I mean, if that fell on someone, though, they would be there's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So they could have, been sued themselves. They'd have had to sue themselves.
They would have had to sue themselves because I was getting paid cash in hand, so I wasn't on the books.
Good. Okay, well, that's good. And yeah. So what you would? How long did the karaoke hosting? Was that at the same time as working in Frozen, or was that one of the?
No, I did that when I was 18.
Okay.
I did it for maybe a year and a half, and I used to do all the really angry football bars, and they loved me because I could rap, and I would wear these giant furry boots, and then I would go along to these angry, mostly really hardcore Rangers pubs. If you're a Glaswegian in your audience, I used to be the karaoke host at the Doctor's Bar and the Grapes Bar, which were notorious bars. Loved it. And I would do Kanye and Biggie Smalls, and they would pay me extra because I was adorable. I was this little girl who was like, yeah! And would get really into my hip hop.
And so you did stand up at 11 and 12, and then sort of turned away from stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what drew you back? So, were you turned away from it because you didn't want to be? Is it a rebellion against your mum, or you just hadn't enjoyed? Did you enjoy doing it when you were younger, or was it?
I'll be very honest. I died on my hole for the first time when I was 14, and I hated that feeling.
Right.
And I wasn't equipped to let it go because, again, probably a big sign of my neuroatypical brain being like, I'm never going to be able to get over this shame. Right. And I didn't cope well with it. And then I was always in the periphery. I mean, you remember me when I was a teenager, I was always round about comedy doing something, but never being a comedian, but always somewhere in the mix, annoying somebody or flying for somebody or teching for somebody or running on stage and winding people up during Spank. And when I was like 15 during the naked promo, just being like, show a boob, and then running away again. And I always loved it, but I never had the guts to kind of pursue it and properly go for it. And I just kind of tiptoed closer and closer to it. That was what happened.
Right.
And then eventually it was some horrible, traumatic things happened in my life. And I just thought, oh, it's that thing where something really bad happens and you either change or you stay. And I twisted and I didn't stick. And I thought, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't stay in my room and feel sad anymore. And this is the only thing I'm actually good at. So, and it changed everything for the better.
Yeah, well, it's almost unbelievable that you had a time where you'd work. It seems such a good fit for you, and it's a fit that you found sort of so young because of, partly because of your circumstances and your mum and all that sort of stuff, but also, you'd found your people, I think.
Yeah,
and so
but you know how like your brain sometimes think, oh, this is too easy.
Yeah.
Something must be wrong. That's kind of what my brain did, because it's too easy to at 11 have gone, oh, this is the thing I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. That's it. I found my... That's too weird. So I did every other job I could literally do to try and disprove that at 11 years old that I'd peaked.
Well, not peaked, just found your place in the world. And like I don't know who it was, Sindhu V, who just seemed so funny, but came to comedy quite late in comparatively. I think in her 30s or something like that. But she didn't even sort of start doing comedy till much later, and yet she seems so like someone you think you're so comfortable, and she was so comfortable straight away as a comedian that it's sort of almost unbelievable she didn't find it before, but to have found it, and then it's good. I think it's the right decision in a lot of ways. And yeah, any teenager who'd been 14 and played in an actual club and been and died is not going to feel great about it. I was 20 or 21 when that was happening to me, and it was devastating.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, as I'm sure you have said, but it's good to have some actual real life experience as well. When as an 11-year-old doing comedy is there's a little bit of a novelty to that, but you've not experienced anything in life, which can be a funny way of coming at it. But 17, 18, 19, 20, to go into, I just look at myself and go, how did I go into a room of adults as a 21-year-old and think that they would want to pay money to hear me tell fucking jokes that of my non-fucking life, that I'd done, but basically not even had sex, more or less. But anyway, yes, good. Look, there's so much to talk to you about, and we won't get it all. Actually, didn't need to have your mum in at all, did we? Those other times, just thought we should, just in case, just have her there. So let's talk about what you do. You've got your Twitch channel, which. Is that just Ashley Storrie? So, how many nights a week are you doing? Do you do one show a week, or do you do
twitch.tv/Ashley Storrie?
Okay.
I try and do 3 a week. Right now I'm doing 2 a week because I've got an acting job coming up, and I'm doing a lot of like preparation for that, and it's taking up a lot of time. But 3 a week usually, and I love it. Yeah, it's great. I love Twitch.
Well, it really suits you, and your mum pops up in those as well. And I was watching, I don't know if this was a Twitch one or just a YouTube one, I was watching you reading out your Harry Potter erotic fan fiction, but that's the sort of thing
that was a Facebook Live we did, and we raised £12,000 for the Carers Trust doing that. So for every £1,000 I read another chapter of Hippogriff Fever, which was an erotic novella I wrote before I'd ever had sex, about characters from Harry Potter who were quarantined, which was very prophetic.
Prophetic, we're prophetic people. And so do watch that. And are people able to use the Amazon Prime money to give you free money on your channel as well? Because people should do that. Subscribe with Amazon Prime if you can to somebody on Twitch, because
that's the interesting thing about Amazon Prime, Richard, is once you've paid for your Amazon Prime, you do get a free subscription to any Twitch channel of your choosing, be it yourself or me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Or Roscoe Roscoe's another good shout for somebody you
Yeah.
could check out on Twitch.
Well, there's lots of people there. It's free money, basically. If you're already with Amazon Prime, don't sign up just to give us money. Just give us money if you want to give us money. But if you're with Amazon Prime, you can basically give back nearly everything you've paid for Amazon Prime to someone on Twitch who you like. So do that. And lots of, I mean, you obviously did the podcast with your mum for a long time, which you're not doing this podcast together now, though, are you?
No,
that's
I have my own podcast called Are We Being Unreasonable, which I do with guests, but Mum does the Janie Godley podcast on her own. And it's fine that she's got the Janie Godley show because I have the Ashley Storrie show available on BBC Radio Scotland and the BBC Sounds app or website every Friday night from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. So
Yeah.
check that out.
Well, that's good. That's all good. So there's all this. You've got stuff coming up later in the year. I don't know if you could talk about. So you've got acting jobs. You've got various exciting things happening. So it does. And you've been winning awards. Both you and your mum have been winning awards.
Yeah.
Which is really terrific to see. So look, keep going. I mean,
Thanks, Richard. I'll try.
You'll have to. You're not going to be able to do anything else. You're nuts. The aliens, they're not, unless they come down and go, oh, the aliens are here and you don't have to do anything anymore.
You're going to feel so foolish when Marco Rubio goes into Congress, and that's who's pushing this forward, by the way. That's the most shocking thing. It's Marco Rubio who's pushing this through Congress. And they're going to be like, BTW, Richard Herring, the tall greys are real.
I'll accept it if it happens, but, and I'll be glad in a lot of ways. But I think, sadly, we're going to carry on our own without gods or monsters to look over us as we plunge into our inevitable doom. But yes, do check out all of Ashley's stuff. You've got a Flintstones duvet, I noticed, as well as you've got the same cup as me. You've got the same cup as me, which I can't see on my thing. You've got a Flintstones duvet, as well as...
Flintstones duvet's gone.
Oh.
Yep.
Have you still got the Gustav Klimt, the Kiss painting behind your bed?
Nope, that is gone completely. All of the good stuff is gone. I painted my room teal and Battleship Grey and replaced all of the art with boxes. I do have a shit ton of crowns and wigs.
And the Captain Kirk figurines still there? Have those gone as well?
Oh no, Captain Kirk is still about. He appeared on the live stream last night when I was trying to, the literary review, do that Bad Sex and Fiction Award.
Yes.
So I was reading bits of that out to Mum, and she was poking me in the face with Captain Kirk while I was trying to read Kirsty Wark's Bad Sex.
Good. And have you heard from William Shatner? I know you're friends with William Shatner.
Weirdly, just pops up when we had the second birthday of my radio show. He wrote in and requested a song, but that wasn't even the best shout out we got. Billy Baldwin wrote in.
Really?
Which is mad.
You're mixing with all the stars, and it will carry on going. I can't wait to see you in Hollywood. I hope they will put you on. I mean, let's see. I know a lot of female comedians were very cross with that end of year show where there's either no women in it or they put a non-comedian woman on a show like that. And they really need someone like you on a show like that, I think. And
I think I'd be good at rounding up the year with Stacey Solomon.
Maybe
I think I'd be great.
No offense to Stacey, but maybe instead of Stacey Solomon. But I know your mum's been on Have I Got News for You, but you guys not popped up on the English panel shows so much. So I hope that people will see you and get you on, because it's about what's up here, isn't it? Not Stacey Solomon. What's up there? What's coming out of here? She's a nice girl.
And I've got antlers, so...
You've got antlers, that's all you need. Look, it's been really lovely to talk to you. I'm going to let you go. It's been a fantastic podcast, and do check out all of Ashley's stuff on her Twitch. Not if I'm on. Don't check out her Twitch then. Do check out my Twitch stuff as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, I do a puppet show. I haven't gone mad, and I play myself at snooker. I'm fine, and sometimes I clear stones off a field. It's all normal. Next week on RHLSTP, we have Danny Robbins from That Was Then, This Is Now. And he's doing a fantastic radio show about the Battersea Poltergeist. I used to work with him. As It Occurs to Me, he was the one who was dropped from That Was Then, This Is Now when I went to As It Occurs to Me. We'll talk about that a lot, I'm sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give a big round of applause to the wonderful Ashley Storrie. See you next week. Goodbye.
How do you like them sky potatoes?